So I know I promised you all a couple of weeks ago that I'll be sharing a video with you about pouring medium part 4, pouring medium for advanced learners. But the thing is, I had to use Australian floatroll in order to show you the difference between American floatroll and Australian floatroll, and also how to emulate Australian floatroll with wood conditioner and American floatroll. So I ordered my Australian floatroll and it took me a week and a half to get my shipment here at home. So I couldn't make that video. And then what happened? I had to study for my exam and I lost one more week. So I didn't make a video for the past 2 weeks. Since I have one more exam on Thursday, I do not have the time to do my part 4 on pouring medium for advanced learners. So I'm doing a video today to show you the difference between how your pour looks when you use a kitchen torch versus how your pour looks when you use a heat gun. And I promise you next Friday you'll have your video on pouring medium for advanced learners. Now let's get started. As you all know, this is a kitchen torch and I use the kitchen torch by EUR Kitchen. This is a very good kitchen torch because this shows me the level of butane that's available for me, so that it's easier for me to fill it when it's empty. Moreover, this kitchen torch has a knob here which makes it easy for you to adjust the length of the flame. Then I have my heat gun over here. I got this for $12 on Amazon. Now, in order to compare apples to apple, I have two canvases over here which are 8 into 8 inches. I have two cups over here which contain 3 ounces of paint and pouring medium in it. I've layered all the colors in the cup in the same way. And I've mixed silicone oil to each of the paints that I used. This is the one in which I'll be using the kitchen torch, and this is the one in which I'll be using the heat gun. Now let's do 2 flip cup pours over here. Now let's pop the air bubbles with a kitchen torch. And now I'm going to use my heat gun on this one. Now let's talk about the difference between the kitchen torch versus the heat gun. If you look closely, you can see that the kitchen torch has given me a splatter or cluster of cells all around my canvas. Small cells. Whereas if you look at the heat gun, the canvas on which I used the heat gun, these are not a splatter of tiny cells all over my canvas. These are beautiful cells that look like tie and dye. You can also see that the color distribution is more even and better in the one that I used the heat gun. Over here in this canvas in which I used the kitchen torch, look at a splatter of tiny cells, especially in the corners and in the middle of the canvas. These do not look like tie and dye. Now the advantage of using a kitchen torch is that you can control where you want cells on your canvas. Because when you use a kitchen torch, the flame only heats up the paint in that part of the canvas that you choose. So this gives you the flexibility to control the design on your pours. Now when it comes to heat gun actually does not just heat up one part of the canvas to which you point it to. It actually emits hot air, and the air spreads beyond the point at which you point your heat gun to on the canvas. Because it emits hot air and the air spreads around the area of the canvas, the silicone oil gets heated evenly, and so you get nice big cells, which gives you this beautiful tie and dye effect. Now take for instance, if I want cells only on this part of the canvas, I point my heat gun over here. But then not just this part would get heated, this whole area would get heated. Because of that, you will not end up getting cells in this part alone, but you will end up getting cells all over here. Which is why when you use a heat gun, you cannot control where you get your cells. Unlike the kitchen torch, where you can control on which part of the canvas you want your cells. Like if you point your kitchen torch over here, you'll just get cells only in this area alone. You won't get cells all over this immediate surrounding area. So that is one disadvantage of heat gun. Now there is an advantage of using heat gun though. As I said, heat gun emits air. So because of that, you can control the shape and the size of your cells. That is because of the air that comes out of the heat gun. The heat gun blows air on the canvas, and the air helps the paint move on the canvas. Let me show you an example. Now look closely. You can see the paint move across the canvas, and you can see that I can control the shape and size of the cells. Now that is something which you cannot do with a kitchen torch. So to conclude, I would say that you can use a kitchen torch if you want small tiny clusters of cells on your canvas, or if you want to control where you want cells on your canvas or your design. And if you want a tie and dye effect, or you want big prominent beautiful cells, then you can go for a heat gun. And this would also help you control the shape and size of your cells and move the paint across the canvas. And one more thing is, if you want lacing effects, then kitchen torch is the way to go. Here is a close-up of the two. This is the one with the heat gun. Look at those beautiful cells with that beautiful tie and dye effect on it. And this is the one in which I used my kitchen torch. Look at the tiny splatter of cells on my canvas, all over my canvas. Tiny splatter of cells and slight lacing effects. Folks, we come to part 2 of the video now, and in this part I will be showing you the effects of a heat gun and blowtorch on your canvas when you torch the air bubbles as soon as you pour your paint on the canvas before you swirl the canvas. Like in the first part, I poured my paint on the canvas and I swirled it, and then I used the kitchen torch and the heat gun. But in this, I will be making my pour. I will be torching it with the heat gun or the kitchen torch, and then I will be swirling it. This gives you a completely different effect. Now, to compare apples to apples, I've used two 8 into 8 inch canvas. I layered the paint in my cup in the same way for both the pours. I used a paint to pouring medium ratio of 1:3, where I used 1 part paint to 3 parts of pouring medium. And I used my homemade pouring medium, which consisted of 70% PVC glue and 30% water. I mixed 2 drops of silicone oil in each paint. I used 4 different colors of paint. I used turquoise, I used yellow, I used white, and I used blue. Actually, this pour over here, I did it on camera, but my video got deleted, which is why you cannot see how I did this pour. But let me explain what I did over here. So basically what I did here was I flipped my cup on top of the canvas, and then I took my kitchen torch, I popped the air bubbles, and then I swirled the canvas. Look at the effect. Look at the beautiful big cells I got on my canvas. Now I used kitchen torch on this canvas too, but you can see the difference between both the canvas. I used kitchen torch on both of them, but you can see how different the effects look. In this one, I flipped the cup, I swirled the paint all over my canvas first, and then I used my kitchen torch on top of it to pop the air bubbles. Over here, it was the other way round. I flipped the cup, I torched it with my kitchen torch, and then I swirled it. Now similarly, I'm going to show you the same experiment now with a heat gun. So I flip my cup. Now I'm going to pop the air bubbles. And now I'm going to swirl the canvas. Wow, just look at that. How beautiful is that? This is my canvas on which I poured the paint, I swirled it, and then I used the heat gun. This is the canvas on which I poured the paint. I used the heat gun to pop the air bubbles and then I swirled it. Look at the difference side by side. And now if you compare the kitchen torch to the heat gun, you can see the difference between using either. If you notice, the cells are smaller in this one, whereas the one in which I used the heat gun, the cells are bigger and more prominent. The second thing is, not only on this canvas but also in the other canvas in which I used the kitchen torch, the cells stretched. You can see this one too. You can see there is a lot of stretching of the cells in these two canvases in which I used the kitchen torch. But if you observe the canvas in which I used the heat gun, you can see there is absolutely no stretching of cells. The cells have held on tight. The same with this one. You don't see stretching of the cells. The cells have held on tight. You can also observe that in the one which I used heat gun, all the colors are dispersed equally across the canvas. So to conclude this video, I would like to say that there is no right way or wrong way to use a heat gun or a kitchen torch. And you can also keep one thing in mind, that you can either torch it before you swirl or after you swirl. Everything depends on the kind of effects that you want on your canvas. That is what matters the most. Here is a close-up of both the pores. This is the one with the heat gun and this is the one with the kitchen torch. Just look at those amazing cells. It's almost got a stained glass kind of an effect. And this is the one with the kitchen torch. The effects are different but beautiful nonetheless. Now you must be wondering, why do I always do a flip cup pours in all my videos? And I'm sure those who are new to pour painting are completely bored of seeing just the flip cup pours on all my videos. The reason for this is because flip cup pours are very versatile, which makes it easier for me to teach you the basics, the foundation, and theoretical content. It helps me explain things in a better manner for everybody to understand, especially to those who are new to pour painting. Once I'm done with the fundamental and the theoretical aspects, I will be teaching you all around 35 to 45 different techniques of pour painting. So that's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed my video and found it to be informative. My next video, I promise you, will be on pouring medium part 4, which is pouring medium for advanced learners. So if you like this video, then please click on subscribe and like my channel. Please share it with your friends and family. I will see you next week. Bye.